it was super tough and super confusing. I remember sitting at those RIAs and looking at those people and going, man, this is a lot of information and it's awful, it's scary, and I don't know what I'm doing, and you know what I mean, all this other stuff, right? So I remember very well that. So I love talking to new investors. Half my day I talk to investors, anyways, through Skip Force. But I think like in anything else, you just got to jump in. You got to take your licks.
All right, guys, here we go now. It is time to unlock more doors to deals. We're real estate investors here. We're real estate agents here, and we all have one thing in common. We believe that we can. We can live the life of our purpose. We can create financial freedom. We can build a better life for those that we love, and we can live the life of our dreams. I don't care if you're trying to do your first deal or your 500th this year. You can get to the next level, and we're here to help. Hey, welcome to Doors to Deals. I'm your host and founder, Jim Manning. Today's episode can be found on doorstodeals.com/074. So today we have Mike Singletary on the line, and Mike has a vast amount of experience and in the real estate space. I'm really excited to bring this to you today. He's done kind of a lot of wholetailing and kind of like JV partnering with people, and in 2013, he even owned a Homevestors franchise and kind of did over 350 deals before he ended up selling that franchise. So the guy's been around the block, and he's got a lot of great insights for us, and we're going to unpack them here in today's episode. So before we get rolling on that, just a quick reminder, our main goal here at Three Doors is to help 250 people become financially free, whether that's our agents or our agents' clients, and we can help you too. So if financial freedom and investing in real estate and passive income instruments is something that is in your heart to do, make sure you just shoot us over an email to deals, DEALS, at threedoors.com. And we can get you more information on how we're generating the $130,000 a month in passive income for other people, and how we can help you out too. And okay, the last thing, let's get going on our iTunes review of the week.
This week's review comes to us from Crazy122, titled Full of Nuggets. 5 stars. Crazy writes, I said for weeks that I didn't have the time to listen. Well, remember that story about the guy cutting down the tree who insisted he didn't have time to sharpen his hammer? Well, this podcast is about sharpening your axe. Find the time and you will benefit. Crazy, thank you for your review. Jim, back to you.
All right, guys. Well, no more talk from me. Let's get going on that interview. All right, guys. Hey, Jim and Caleb here again. We have Michael Singletary on the line. Had the good fortune of meeting Michael at a networking event in Florida. Oh my gosh, it was a couple months ago. It's a lot warmer at the time of this recording. It's like 20 degrees outside. That we're dealing with in some good old December weather. But anyway, enough about the weather. Let's get going.
How you doing, guys? Thanks for having me on, man. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. So can you kind of just like your background and kind of what you're doing now, and just kind of give like just a quick snapshot on what all you have going on?
Yeah. So I've been in real estate. I got the date right there because I just saw, I was kind of cleaning out my file case and I saw my first Homevestor franchise. That's how I got into it. So it's March 29th, 2013. I have to look at it. And so, and within 8 years, it's been amazing because I still remember what that felt like at the beginning, going to RIAs, not understanding, anything and, being kind of confused. But within 8 years, we've done over 350 transactions. I sold this Homevestor franchise. We started our own Star House Acquisitions, where we focus on single family homes here in Central Texas. We're expanding it out. We're going into Houston here next week. We'll be going into Dallas as well. And then we're going to probably hit about 4 or 5 other markets. So we're really going to be aggressive here in 2022 on it.
So your model is it wholesaling, buying whole, flipping? Like
it's a combination of all right now. I mean, right now we do a lot more, probably more wholetailing and JV'ing than anything else. quite honestly, I'm not that great at wholesaling, you know what I mean? But we're going to get better at it. And that's our goal for this year, especially with the expansion. So started a skip tracing service probably about 2 years ago. And so we supply investors and other platforms around the country with, tier one skip tracing data. And we're adding some new services to that as well. And it just blows my mind when I look back at that date, I'm like, how much could change in such a short period of time, because I knew nothing. I didn't know anything about data until like 3 years ago, whenever I had to start using it. Right. But it's just being an entrepreneur and just kind of plowing forward.
Yeah. So skip tracing, for those of you, if you've never heard of it, it's taking someone's contact information, like an address, their name, and then getting a phone number for them and getting their contact. And then you can, whether it's cold call or text blast or I guess ringless voicemail. I don't know how much success people have been having with that.
Yeah. RVMs are going to be dying. So is texting
Yeah.
soon.
Yeah. So cold calling, texting, just trying to get a hold of people that might be going through a foreclosure or have some sort of hardship, just trying to, buy their property.
Yeah, it's an outreach program, right? So it's the company is skipforce.com. So essentially what it is it's a cold outreach program, which you should really have both, I think. Some people probably specialize in one or two campaigns. I like to have an outreach, an outbound campaign and an inbound campaign. I think those are the two best. And I love, we're heavy into cold calling. We probably have about 10 to 12 cold callers on our staff, and we're going to expand that. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. Are those in-house or most of those overseas in the Philippines?
Everybody's overseas. We don't use Filipinos for cold calling on prospecting. We've done a lot of split tests on it. I actually opened up a small call center. We found the best prospectors were from Colombia, Central America. They're just more aggressive. Their nature is more aggressive. And they just handle the prospecting side a lot better. And so on the Filipino side, I think they're really, really good lead managers because they're a little bit more compliant. They can warm that lead up a little bit better, right? And so on the Philippine side, we have them as lead managers primarily.
Gotcha. Awesome.
Yeah.
I know we have.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Yeah,
ours in the Philippines, so I've never even thought about Colombia.
Well, no, and it makes a lot of sense because the culture in the Philippines, everybody is like so nice.
They're nice and they're compliant and they don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, and they're hard workers and they're amazing. But as you guys well know, as a prospector, you got to have that shark mentality. And we just feel like with our experience, because we tested Mexico, all over Central America, Venezuela, all of that. And we just feel like Colombia for us worked out really, really well. So we have a pretty good pipeline now. We could source them pretty decently. Like we have 7 new ones coming in right now. So because as we expand, we want to go ahead and obviously we need more cold callers. We need more LMs. And I'm going to turn some of my top prospectors. So this is a new thing I'm doing right now. I'm turning my top prospectors into AMs. And so today's training day 1. So I'm a little excited because I think they could do it, man. So I have stateside AMs, but I'm going to see, because we do everything virtual anyways. So we don't do belly to belly closes. So we transitioned that a couple of years ago. So we'll see how that works out.
All right. So we got a lot to talk about. And I just want to, for the agents listening in, I want to bridge a gap here. This is the talk. Everything you've heard is what investors are calling with like the prospecting. What's common, not like lingo or language for agents, is expired listings or for sale by owners, and cold calling those. It's literally the same thing. The only difference is that what Michael's good at and what a lot of other investors are good at is finding a data source like a foreclosure list, probates, absentees, anything that could have a hardship that would lead to a motivated seller. Okay. And so pulling that data and then pulling the information, pulling the numbers, and then going after and cold calling, a combination of cold calling, door knocking, mailing, you name it, anything to get a hold of these people that have their house to sell. So it's a little bit more nuanced than just getting like an expired list on the MLS. But it's literally the exact same thing.
And the VAs are essentially your ISAs that the agents are using. So agents just call them a different term.
Yeah, it's the same thing. We call them ISAs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So running a virtual model, let's dive into that a little bit. So
Sure.
literally you've done 350 deals. So over the last couple of years into this virtual model, like how many of those 350 have been in the virtual model?
God, 90%, I would say 95%. I mean, I can't remember stepping in a home. I just, we have transitioned. We made that transition. It's really more mental than anything else. Like I said, around 2 years ago. And if I have to go to the home, it has to be pretty close because we buy in San Antonio, but I try to avoid it. I avoid it. So we make the process is relatively simple. We try to mimic a belly to belly situation as much as possible, right? We engage in the conversation with them. We see if it's a fit for them and for us. If it is, we ask them to send pictures. We have a very specific criteria of what we need on the pictures. If they can't do it, because a lot of times they can't, they're not at the property or they're just not capable, right? We'll have some boots on the ground, go over there and take the pictures, send it over to us. We have a pretty good idea just from pictures what the house is worth as is. We make that offer. Then obviously, it's just like anything else. When we make that offer, we try to make that offer live. Like we just don't throw the contract out there and just have it floating around, right? We want to make sure that just like a belly, we understand their situation. We understand all the objections. We understand all the decision makers. And we want to have all the decision makers on the call as we're going through the contract. So there's no confusion. And if they have any questions, we can answer it right then. And then as soon as that's executed, it's just like the same. You send it off to your dispo guys and you do that.
That's fantastic. So what do you think? I mean, time-wise, doing it completely virtual, how much time does that save you per deal?
Saves us quite a bit. Like, do you buy it as deep? Sometimes no. Because, obviously they have that ability to just cut that conversation a lot easier when on a virtual. So you have to really, really focus on rapport building, but it just broadens your scope, right? You're not geographically constrained or anything like that, right? And we've been very fortunate. Like, we buy houses, at a pretty decent price anyways, that's a fit. But we're just able to have more conversations instead of like, going to a property that takes an hour, having that hour buy call, driving back. So that's 3 hours, right? Typically that's being conservative because they have to do some workup and stuff like that as well. We're able to, just be on top of it. And it's just a numbers game.
Gotcha. Yeah. So you're creating more phone calls, creating more conversations, and hoping more things stick.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you'll do your introductory call, vet it, say, hey, we need pictures. Can we meet again Wednesday, in the next, or Friday? It's Wednesday today. Can we meet again on Friday after you send me the pictures for an hour and we'll go over what the offer will be? So it's like a two-step process? Or? Yeah,
but it's a lot like Belly Live, right? Where you're constantly directing the next step. You want to clear next step all the time. And typically we don't want to have that much time. Like if they're already in our buy box and we want to be able to just move as quickly as possible, right? We could have somebody over there taking pictures that day. You know what I mean? Like, but more because we're predominantly an outreach campaign. It usually doesn't happen that way, right? Some of our inbound leads, of course, it happens like that. But on an outreach, you're nurturing that already. So we're having that initial conversation with them. A lot of times, a lot of people that we buy from, they have a stack of mail and they haven't called anybody yet because they weren't ready to make that phone call. We've already made that relationship with them. And so whenever they are ready to pull the trigger, because when it comes to a cold outreach campaign, it is a follow-up game. Right. So once we made that relationship with them, then they're more comfortable moving forward, especially on a virtual model.
So what's your, do you track, how much data do you track on this? Like, are you like, hey, on average, we have to reach out and do 5 follow-ups, have 5 conversations before we get one under or before they're ready to sell. like how detailed are you with your
not as detailed as I need to be. I should have that number down. The deal cycle is longer on a cold outreach. On an inbound warm lead, they're already raising their hand and they're ready to go, right? So that sales cycle is a lot shorter. On a cold outreach, could be 2 to 4 months, right? 2 to 4 months before we're able to get into contract. So everything that we're planning right now is going to, obviously, that affects our future.
So your cold outreach, outbound calls, what are your favorite types of lists that you like to scrub and call on?
That's a great question. So, we still stack our list, but when you're doing cold calling, you can't just hit niche lists unless you're doing it on a smaller scale or stuff like that. It's more of a shotgun approach. So really all we're looking for is high equity in the top zip codes that we want to target. And that's it, right? Everybody's going to fall within that within high equity anyway. So that's really what we're looking for. But we still, if we do direct mail and stuff like that, then we stack the list. And there's multiple ways of stacking, a list. So it just depends if it has something like the holy trifecta of a stack list is death, tax delinquents, and code violation, right? I mean, that's like the holy trinity, you know what I mean? Because that property's in trouble, and nobody's there and something's going on. So lists like that, we kind of zero in on. We'll hit them with obviously everything. We're trying to skip trace all the relatives, have conversations with the relatives, see what's going on with the house, that type of stuff.
Yeah. And I mean, stacking can be really effective because, they're getting hit by more than one life event at the same time.
Yeah.
And that raises motivation up. Have you ever thought, so you're doing all virtual. So do you, so as far as your outreach campaign, you'll do direct mail and you'll cold call these people. Is there anything else that you do that's a little different for people, that have multiple hardships going?
No, I mean, we'll do Facebook campaigns as well. We'll retarget a lot on Facebook more than anything else, and rather doing just a cold outreach, campaign on Facebook. So that just makes them familiar with who we are and makes them comfortable with us, right? So other than that, man, I mean, we did text quite a bit, but we still do it, but not on the scale that we did before because it's still effective. It's just not as effective. You have to really pump up the data. So when it comes to telecommunications marketing, the drawback is that there's a lot of data involved and it's a shotgun approach. And it's really, you need to have a great lead management follow-up system. That's where most investors and probably some realtors too, they just really don't do a very good job of that, of following up, right? As far as I'm kind of losing my train of thought here a little bit, but as far as like the campaigns, we're moving away from texting. We're still heavily into cold calling. We're going to go into PPC as our inbound campaign. That's our next one.
Okay. So, how would you, so most people don't do the follow-up properly. How do you guys have that set up? What do you guys try and focus on?
Creating conversations and relationships. So the main thing is making sure that we're not relying on an automated drip follow-up sequence. And I think a lot of investors make that mistake where they just kind of have set up this 3-year sequence of, texts and RVMs and all this other stuff, right? And hope somebody raises their hand and they can initiate that conversation again. What we do though, is that we call them or text them, and it's not automated. We make sure that we're reaching out to them on whatever that timeline is. We're super aggressive at the beginning, and then depending on what their situation is after that, it's a personal touch. It's building a relationship.
No, yeah, I love that. Any type of sales is definitely building a relationship.
Yeah.
One thing we talk about a lot is like value. So when you guys are building that relationship, what are some ways that you offer value to the sellers that maybe other people can't?
I mean, we try to tell them all their options, right? I mean, if they're not in our buy box, one of the things that we'll do right away is like, hey, listen, we're not a fit for you, but it sounds as if, X, Y, and Z is probably going to be a better fit for them, right? And sometimes it is, and they go in that direction. And other times it just builds another layer of trust where we're not trying to skin a cat. We're just trying to give you this is an option that we give you. And then And then obviously you have other options. We're just one of your many options. We would love to be the person that helps you with it, but ultimately it's up to them. And that's just the nature of the conversation.
Yeah, letting people know, hey, there are other options besides me is a really, really great way to build trust for sure.
Yeah.
I love that.
Well, because it's a numbers game for us, right? It's so many conversations, right? So we're not trying to go for a hard close or anything like that. By the time we close them, they feel pretty good about us, about dealing with us.
So, are you using like a Mojo dialer, like an auto dialer to?
I am. So we're using ZenCall. It's called Ready Mode now that they sold the company. So it's Ready Mode. And we've tried several. We just feel like they are the best.
So we're using Mojo right now, and I have like a concern with this that I don't know if you've thought about or not. So like my phone now will tell me like, hey, spam caller or something like that. And like, so like, I think the cell phones and the technology has changed to where like they're starting to like recognize some of these dialers and recognize some of the companies that are, calling thousands and thousands of people at any given time. Do you know anything about that? Do you,
Yeah, I know quite a bit. Well, I'm not an expert, but I know quite a bit, probably more than most. So the Trace Act came into effect, and investors, we ruin everything, or marketers, we ruin everything. Anytime there's a marketing channel comes in, we just kind of flood it, and then we just cause these issues, and then regulatory circumstances kind of take effect, right? Essentially what it is, and that's what's happened with the texting campaign, you have to register your business to be compliant. What they're doing on the cold calling side is that if you're dialing more than about 250 over a short period of time, $250 a day, they're going to flag it as spam likely or something like that, right? So what you need to do is rotate your numbers a lot. And per ISA, we purchase 100 numbers per ISA. So if you're using the same number, your delivery rate is going to be affected. So you need to change your number considerably.
So you have how many numbers per ISA?
100.
100. No.
100 numbers. You can buy them for like $1 a number, right?
I filtered it. I said holy guacamole in my head, and then I was like, no, I'm not going to say it. I'm like, oh, okay. Like why did that pop into my head?
That's
100 numbers. Holy shit. Yeah.
You need to, man. Otherwise, it's going to be flagged, and they're not going to answer your call, right? So that's another mistake I think a lot of investors make.
Is there any way to?
I'm not saying you have to do 100, but you got to change that number a lot.
I don't know if that's something that we're doing right now, so we could definitely add that in. Is there any way to tell when your number's been flagged, and do numbers get unflagged? Do you know that?
I don't know about the unflag. I should know that, truthfully, and I don't, but I will after this. I'll somebody on my team does know that. Can you repeat the question again?
Yeah. So just if you knew you were flagged, and if you.
Yeah. So there's programs out there. There's some dialers I'll tell you. Unfortunately, Ready Mode isn't one of them. Some dialers, I don't know, Mojo will. I know Call Tools has that component where they will tell you that number is being flagged. That's all. I think there's also some third party. I know there's third party applications that you can use as well to determine that.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I know my personal cell phone number was flagged in the past. So I just wonder. I'm like, am I still flagged, or maybe am I not?
Man, you're making some calls.
No, I used to. I'm not. I don't make calls now, but when I first started, I made calls for about 6 to 8 hours a day every day.
Oh yeah, you're making some calls. Well, before the threshold used to be, I don't know. I mean, like it was 500 not long ago. Now it's 250. So
will you have your VA do like 200 on one number and then switch and do another 200 on another and like use 3 different numbers? I'm sorry.
I don't know how that process works. My operations manager does all that. So yeah, I wish I could tell you, but I don't know the details of it.
So what are your? I mean, we've been talking a bit about like cold calling and stuff like that. Where are you going to next? Like, you guys are doing a lot of wholetailing. You're expanding. How are you? So you're expanding through the virtual model, but tell us some more about that.
Yeah. So, through Skip Force, we have access to the best data, right? So we're going to obviously provide lists to our clients as well. So we're going to use that data with our own personal business. So what we're looking for is what are the top, 5 to 10 cities that we could go into. Obviously, pull the top regions in there where they have the most cash buyers. We're going to target those first. We're going to the process is establishing some sort of boots on the ground. We have the picture thing taken care of down. You could use like a service like TaskRabbit or something like that and get them to do that. They could even put the lockbox on for you. But it's not overly complicated. Once you do it in one market, you can pretty much do it in every other. It's just going into that market and understanding that market. That's really the key, right? Because right now we're in 3 different markets and they couldn't be more different, all 3 of them, right? And so in one of our markets, it's a couple, as you probably well know in yours, one street can be the difference, like literally the difference, and so determining the pockets, the areas, that type of stuff is probably going to be the biggest challenge.
Yeah. So in our area, we have, so St. Charles is like in West County, and like all the homes were built around the same time. And like you can do entire, like you can just do like a half mile and get, like 10, 20, 30 houses that are like cookie cutter, exactly the same. But then if you go to South City, you can be the same street even on a different block that can be like a $50,000 swing on the exact same street, just because for whatever reason now this block is like really rough. So we we definitely have both spectrums in our area for sure.
I think every market has it, and I think that's the biggest hurdle when you're going into new markets. Kind of really studying and understanding that.
That's what killed Zillow. Really.
Yeah,
it's one of the things. It's one of them.
Zillow,
they thought their estimate was worth something apparently.
Well, those estimates, that works for us now because we could always use that. Like whenever the seller's like, "Hey, this estimate's this," but what happened to Zillow, right? Those estimates were wrong. So yeah.
Almost bankrupted $1 billion company.
I know, right?
That's crazy. So we talk about like building wealth. Are you doing any types of rental properties? What's your strategy around rentals and long-term investments?
Hey guys, for those of you that are local to St. Louis, I wanted to make sure you knew about an amazing resource that we have to help do some extra deals. You can email our team at deals@3doors.com. And just so you know, we do deals with other investors all the time. Like it's been hundreds and hundreds over the years, and we've averaged over 100 deals with other investors per year over the last 5 years. We can straight up buy the deal if you have a wholesale under contract that you want to sell. If you need funding to finance a flip, or like you're doing a BRRRR strategy, we have funding available for you. If you're trying to wholesale a deal, we're doing JV wholesale deals with other wholesalers that, quite frankly, some of the deals we're putting together for a beginner or an intermediate investor, they'd probably be walking away from because we have systems and processes and we have buyers in place that are paying top dollar for these properties. So make sure you use this resource. And the best way to get and the easiest way is to just send us an email, deals@3doors.com. All right, back to the episode.
Are you doing any types of rental properties? What's your strategy around rentals and long-term investments?
Ironically, I'm going tomorrow to a mastermind for storage facilities and mobile home parks. So we're going to look into get into that space. That's one of my goals for next year. I just feel like affordable housing is going to be a really, really big deal. And I love the storage capacity because you don't have to deal with people as much, right? But I like the mobile home, although it's a depreciating asset. I think the cash flows is as good or anything else, right, out there right now. So I'm super excited about that. Do y'all already do that?
No, so I'm literally laughing right now because Caleb, like, was this yesterday or the day before? Was like, "Hey Jim, we're buying 3 mobile homes. Like, I hope you're okay with that. And I'm just sitting here like, what are the numbers? I never thought I'd ever own a mobile home before.
I was like, well, you don't have to own them. I'm going to buy them. The numbers are great.
No, he did the
they're amazing. I mean, they are amazing. You're talking about like $20,000, $30,000 all in, $900 a month.
Yeah. So we're getting zero money all in. We're assuming a mortgage. We're going to be almost no money into them and immediately cash flowing like $70 a month.
That's a no-brainer, right?
Yeah, he did the whole pull away like on me. He's like, well, yeah, well, I'm gonna do it if you don't want to. So I'm like, oh yeah, I want to do it. If that's what you, of course I want to.
The most powerful close ever. That's awesome.
It's pretty funny. And I like, because I knew I wanted them. I'm like, these are the land there is going up in value. We're getting these lots. It could be worth something in 30 years. We're gonna make cash flow every month. No, I'm totally
cash flow right off the bat
about affordable housing, because I think one thing we're going to see is the market shifts, and it's shifting right now. And how it has is when you talk to tenants in 5 years, and somebody said this a few weeks ago, and I agree with them so much. When you talk to tenants in 5 years, they're going to still live in the same house ish, but they're going to have a less nice house. They're going to pay more in rent. They're going to have less desirable school district. Affordable housing is really going to become an issue over the next 5 to 10 years. I mean, as we've seen, real estate values have massively skyrocketed and rents have not followed at the same rate.
I agree.
That's the next year to 2 years. I'm a big Reddit person. Right now, you see everybody crying about home values on Reddit. Within the next year to 2 years, everybody's going to be crying about rent values or rent prices, because rents are going to tick up, I think, massively.
I think so too. So I'm super bullish on mobile home parks right now. So I'm going to go down and learn as much as I can and be aggressive with it next year.
There's some people doing some disruptive stuff in mobile home parks. I'm sure if you,
I know, it's massive. Yeah.
And it's a virtual game. I know some guys my age that they bought like 500 mobile home pads this year. And I'm like, holy shit. Like, you're in your 20s and you bought this many pads with no money out of pocket.
I wish I would have known this stuff in my 20s. I mean, I was a mess up. I was a mess in my 20s, right? And I see these kids in their 20s and they're like that. I'm like, oh my God, I don't know if they even realize the power they have, right?
Well, I tell you what, let's go into how big of a mess you are. Now you got me curious. So
I was a loser, man. I mean, truthfully, I was a complete mess back in the day. Part of my story, and I tell this all the time. I used to be a hairdresser. Right before this, 8 years ago, before I got this, I owned high-end hair salons in Houston, right? And then I did that for about 20 years. And nobody, no straight guy goes, "Hey, I'm going to grow up to be a hairdresser." Either you're born into it or you're not. And a lot of it is because I didn't know what else to do, right? I just wanted to party, and that's all I cared about. I just wanted to party and hang out and all this other stuff in my 20s. And although I've always been an entrepreneur, I had my own salon even then and stuff like that. I just didn't understand the power of time, right? Focus compounding time. Like, if you're doing something in your 20s and you're in it, what you could do within 10, 20 years is amazing. So that's what I'm trying to teach my kids, man. That's one of my, if they could grasp that lesson, I think I won.
I'm so grateful I started before I had bills, before I had kids, or still on kids, but before I had those things in life that cost people a lot of money.
Yeah,
I was able to take these crazy high risk and it paid off. It's unbelievable. I mean, I never imagined at 29 I'd be doing this, but here I am.
Oh, you're one of those guys, huh? 29. That's amazing, man. Good for you, brother. You know what I mean? That's so cool.
Tell us about the years you screwed up. What led you to real estate through like the salon? Did you have something like crazy life-changing event to get you in real estate?
And did you used to have good hair? Because you look.
Yeah, now I used to have long hair. Like back in the day, I'm a little older, right? So I grew up in the grunge era. So I had
if I was a girl, I would not get a haircut from you. I'm just saying, this bald guy.
Dude, I'm going to tell you something. That business was amazing. That for a straight guy, that was an amazing business. Like, my friends would cap on me all the time, and then they'd come up to my salon. They're like, "Oh my God!" Right? There's nothing but beautiful women there all the time. I digress. In case my wife watches this, she was one of my clients, so, and that it worked out for me. But what happened for me was that the salon, and it's still going right now, it's on its 15th year or something like that. The salon was on autopilot. It really required probably about 6 or 7 hours a month from me, right? So we had it all dialed in, processes, all that stuff. And I was just bored. And I always, heard that real estate is where you should be to build real wealth, and I'm a relatively uneducated guy. I'm a street guy, a street smarts guy type of thing. So, and like anything, if I want to do it, man, I just dove in, and that's what we did about 8 years ago. And then 2 years into that, I sold the salon. I'm like, man, forget this. I'm all in over here because I don't have the capacity to do a bunch of stuff, which is not really true because I'm doing a bunch of stuff right now. But whenever I'm all into one area, is what I'm saying is I'm in, man, and that's what happened with the real estate.
Nice, I love that. What was that like? Plunging into real estate. How did that make you feel during that time era? Was it tough?
Man, that's a great question. It was super tough and super confusing. I remember sitting at those RIAs and looking at those people and going, man, this is a lot of information and it's awful. It's scary. And I don't know what I'm doing. And you know what I mean? All this other stuff. Right. So I remember very well that. So when I love talking to new investors, half my day I talk to investors anyways through Skip Force. But I think like in anything else, you just got to jump in. You got to take your licks, right? I mean, that's just how it is. And I think that wholesaling gives you a really good mechanism of how to do it. Like I started retail. I came in just straight retail, right? So we were decently capitalized. We could do that. And now I think like that growth spectrum with a lot of investors is like they start retail and now you want to go to wholesale when a lot of people start at wholesale when they're undercapitalized because it's an easier way to kind of get into the industry. But wholesale is it's a more scalable. If you have your system process down, it's just a more scalable, not as cash intensive because nobody tells you that this is a very cash intensive game, right? If you're flipping it, you better be capitalized, or you're just going to run out of money.
Yeah, so many people, the gurus they target on do it. And you can invest with no money out of pocket. It can be done. It's just, and we teach how to do it to a lot of people on our team, but you got to work really hard. It's not easy to do it.
And there's an important caveat here, guys. Like it's not no money. It doesn't, right. It's no, you can do it where it's no money out of your own pocket.
Sure.
It's going to have to be somebody's money. So like, if you find like if you have someone that, it's a friend or a family member with money, or in our case, like we fund and do a lot of deals with people in our world where it's our cash, it's the money that we've raised as our group. And so like you can do it and you can do it in a way that's not your own capital, but the capital has to be there. Like
it is. And you have to have be able to have that conversation to talk to the OPM, right? Or have the liquidity because you use hard money to have for the money down and obviously the draws and stuff like that too. I think for me specifically at the beginning, because I had access to capital, I just didn't know how to have that conversation well initially because I didn't have that mentor. And if I had to do it all over again, I probably would have gotten a mentor or joined a mastermind earlier. I thought joining a franchise would be my mentor, but that really wasn't the case.
Really?
Yeah. I don't want to talk about that though.
Tell us more about that.
Talk about.
Michael gets
I'm not here to dog anybody, man.
Hit with a lawsuit a couple months down the road. And, Jim and Caleb.
It just wasn't for me, man. I'm not the type of guy that wants to dog anybody. So
I love the topic of mentorship. We have a lot of things through each conversation that we usually bring up, and you're hitting like we talked about the value, like you're hitting everything. So mentorship.
Sweet, man.
Tell me more about mentorship because talking to our newer audiences, so many of them immediately want to partner with someone. They're like, I want you to be my business partner. I want to marry you. And we try to encourage people to do a lot of joint ventures starting out because I think you should go joint venture with 5 different people and figure out what kind of personality you work well with, but also complement you. What's your opinion around that?
I think JVs at the beginning are the way to go. JVs are wholesaling. I think that if I had to do it all over again, what I would do is I would find a way to obviously to source it, to get the deal. And then I would I would get to the best the biggest, flipper or whatever a company there was, and just I'd give them most of the profit as long as they allowed me to be a part of the process and learn. Right. I'd either do that or I'd join the team or I'd pay somebody to teach me, because there's a lot of learning curves, man. There's a lot going on in this business that people kind of take for granted. And you can watch YouTube until your eyes bleed, man, but that's just not going to be the same.
Nothing's gonna teach you like when you buy your first house.
No, not an experience. And then, of course, having that relationship with somebody that could help you walk you through the experience, go, hey, listen, I know this looks good, but, you got to watch out for this X, Y, and Z. Right. So
nothing drives me crazier than people who are like, I want to get dinner with you every night. And I'm like, I can't get dinner with you every night. Like, even if I explain this stuff to you, you're not going to learn it. You need to go find a deal. We'll do a deal together, and you're going to learn so much through a deal. And if you break even, great, but you learned a lot.
That's the thing, and everybody, you hear this from a lot of people, and it's true, because as a newbie, all of us, I'm sure, the whole take you out to lunch or I take out the coffee thing, it doesn't work, guys. You know what I mean? Like, if you're new, you got to bring value, like, because all of us are stretched. We all have we all have businesses to run and stuff like that, and families and stuff like that. So if you want to get somebody's attention, bring them a deal. They'll get you. You'll get their attention right then, and you're going to get what you need. Don't be I am not a short-sighted person. I'm a relationship person, right? So build that relationship. You're not going to get the big piece of the pie right now, but you're going to get something that's way more than that one deal, right? Through that experience, right? So,
I think what you just said is so important, and I want to repeat it one more time. If you want to get something from an investor, from a seasoned person, bring them a deal.
A real deal.
A good deal. Yeah, not a crap deal. Bring a good deal to a high-level investor and say, hey, I want to partner with you on this. You're going to see the way their brain works. You're going to see the way they work through the numbers. You will learn so much from that. Then I'm going to take you out to lunch. Because if you're taking me to lunch, promise, I'm sitting here on my phone the whole time. I'm like, dude, I got to catch up with everything. I'm eating food. You're not getting that much out of me.
No.
But you better buy my lunch.
Well, if you can even get us to lunch, truthfully.
Right. You're gonna have to wait. It's gonna be in a month.
Right.
Caleb's you're more popular than I am. People don't ask me to lunch much.
Well, 4 times a week. My Facebook messages, and I don't know. I love
He's 29, man. He's 29 and single. You know what I mean?
My Facebook messages 3 to 4 times a week. Hey, I want to get in real estate. I'd love to take you lunch. That's fantastic. You should go to Bigger Pockets. Pockets. Go listen to these 20 podcasts. Go listen to my podcast.
Right.
After you study for 40 hours, then let's talk a little more.
Absolutely.
And then about 10% of people come back around and they're like, hey, dude, I learned about this, and this, and I still want to do it. I'm like, cool. Now let's talk. Because now you're past the beginner stuff. What do you
try to do after that? I mean, what's your
we figure out where they fit in the world. We have a large network. So if they're an agent, let's bring them on the expansion team. Let's get them in our world through that. If they want to be a wholesaler or a flipper, if they want to be a flipper, we'll bring you on our VIP buyer. If you're an acquisitions guy, let's do a lengthy process and see if we should partner on acquisitions. So
nice.
We have I would say a pretty large network. A lot of ways that people can plug in and get included, but the brand new person, they come a lot, but we want them to go do a little homework before we're going to.
Well, it's this strategy for somebody starting out. Like that's exactly what I did. I did one deal my first 18 months, and I was just so scared. I didn't know what I didn't know. I'd buy an online course, I'd study it for a month, and then I wouldn't do anything, Yeah. And so I suckered Ryan Wessels. He's on this podcast, my business partner, into doing deals with me, and he got to do whatever the heck he wanted on his own. I'd say, hey, I just want to do some deals with you. And, then it got to a point where I was providing so much deals and so much value that he was like, hey, we need to do this partnership thing.
That's awesome. That's the nugget, man. That's how you do it right there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that was kind of it. And there was a synergy in our skill sets, and 3,000 plus deals later, here we are. Right. So
and then I was in your guys' world for about 5 or 6 years. And then we kind of had the last year of joint ventureship, and now we became business partners. So
wow, that's awesome, man.
It was a very long. I mean, I joined their training programs. That's how I learned how to do real estate.
Yeah, that's an amazing story. I mean, that you're creating value to each other, and then you found this energy, right? I'm assuming your personalities are opposite.
So they're very opposite.
Yeah.
I'm like I would say the middle ground.
Got you.
That's how I phrase it when people ask. It's like I'm like the middle of Ryan and Jim, but Ryan and Jim are very opposite.
Got you. Okay. That's why it works, right?
Would you agree or no?
Yeah, that's a good way to explain it. Yeah, there's, I mean, there's value though there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's value. It's not. Ryan and I were fortunate that we've been buddies since high school, so we had that friendship, and we coached baseball together after college, even played baseball together in high school, and so we were fortunate that we had a friendship, but we also weren't the same person. Because like if the company was made out of Jim Manning's, like literally we'd be on the whiteboard doing ideas all day, nothing would get done. And then the next day we'd have 100 new ideas and nothing.
He's a visionary,
So there can't like if Ryan and I were both wired the same way, like this, it wouldn't have happened, And I think that's a big mistake people make when they look for someone to be in business with, because it's like, well, I need that rapport, I need that friendship, and absolutely you do, and they can't be the same person as you.
I think you have to have the opposite. I mean, I've looked for partners. I've never had a real partner, right? And I've always looked for it, and I'm always open to it. I'm always fascinated how you guys made it work. You make it work, obviously, on an extremely high level with 3 people, much less just 2. You know what I mean? That's amazing. But I think you nailed it. You have to have somebody. I think the core values. So obviously, you guys share core values, right? And then you have different strengths, and I think that's the way it works, right?
Yeah, it's the only way you get to synergy, where 1 + 1 = 3. Not
absolutely
2, right?
Yep. So we got off topic. I want to circle back. We were talking about new people coming in and like what they should do. So yeah, I mean, you guys, for the new people, come to people, bring value, study as much as you can, and like you mentioned, find somewhere where you plug into a large network. Trying to go and do this on your own, there's too much risk to that. Too much. You'll make so many mistakes. If you can join a really big room with really smart people, you're going to be so much more successful as a new person. What do you guys do with new people coming in? How do you bring them in your world?
Well, we're just starting that process, right? Typically our clients for Skip Force, they come in, they're pretty seasoned. You're not really coming in and skip tracing, 1,000 records and stuff like that, or 10,000 records, because usually takes more, unless you've kind of done it for a little bit. So we don't really have that newbie experience as much, but we do have those guys that are onesie twosies and they're trying to scale, right? They're doing 1, 2, maybe, 1 a month or something like that. And they're trying to scale that. And that's where we can really help them, as far as I just tell them that, these are the data that you should be pulling. This is what your structure should look like, stuff like that. So that's really my only involvement with newer investors at this moment. Like I said, that'll probably change though.
Yeah, especially once you start going into other markets, I think you're going to see a lot of people coming to you, or increase amount.
I hope so. Yeah.
So is this is like the prospecting and kind of like what we've talked about, is that your favorite way to do deals, or do you have something else that we haven't talked about that you really like doing deals?
I mean, we're probably going to get more into the creative financing here, because I think that's going to be a space that's huge coming up. So what I'm trying to do with our staff is, as we hire and train, like right after this, we're going to do training for new AMs. After I get that established, I want to get one person on my team that's going to be like a creative financing, wizard. So that's one of the goals for next year. Other than that, I mean, it's pretty straightforward, as far as prospecting, like I said, I prefer the outreach because I'm an aggressive guy by nature, and I prefer controlling the dialogue. I hate sitting around waiting for my phone to ring. You know what I mean? But I like the combination of both.
So if you had to kind of look back over the last 5 years, and give yourself one piece of actionable advice, you give yourself one piece of advice, what would you tell yourself?
Focus. Okay. I'm a visionary, right? So I have to surround myself with integrators, right? So I'm the guy with the 20 new ideas a day and, all that other stuff on the chalkboard. And I could take it to, halfway, and I could take it the whole way, but that's just not my thing. I mean, I think one of the things that I would have done is because we got into new construction. I mean, all this stuff. We're buying. I mean, we're building like $1 million homes. I had no idea what I was doing, and it just diverted me from what I should have been doing. Right. So if I had to go back do it all over again, I would have told myself just focus more, and I would have been a little bit of a better marketer, right? Because we gave that away when we joined the franchise, and that was the tough part because we're really in a marketing and sales business, right? With houses being the widget.
So there's a couple resources. So integrator and visionary, when you hear that language, guys, that was coined from a book called Traction Tools and Rocket Fuel that are both really good reads on that subject. And then as far as focus goes, have you ever read the book Pumpkin Plan?
I have it on my queue. I'm about to read it.
Yeah, so that's a really good one. And the guy tells an analogy on how these pumpkin farmers grow like big, gigantic, massive pumpkins versus just like your normal standard one. And some of these pumpkins, like a 6-foot man can like walk, like climb up and like go into, right? These things are gigantic. And anytime you can find principles and find something that like works at a really high level, well, the principle can be applied in other areas. So what he did was he studied these businesses and then started applying, or he studied the pumpkin. He started applying the principles to his businesses, and then he built like several $10 million+ companies, and then ended up selling them and everything like that just by following his pumpkin plan.
That's awesome.
So it's an amazing analogy on like what to do, how to do it, and really it's been one of our core focuses where we've been trying to tie everything in because we've had so many moving parts, so many revenue streams. It's really what our evolution is as entrepreneurs. Our next level is really kind of building one big massive pumpkin.
That's awesome.
So yes, I concur with the focus. Yeah, we're trying that out too.
Yeah.
All right. So, well, that's fantastic. What do you got?
Nothing else. I just, if you could, so yeah, two final questions. If you could give yourself advice 5 years ago, what would that number one piece of advice be?
Don't be so destination focused. Be focused on just the process and the 1% improvement, because that destination is going to take care of itself, right? My thing was I was always so focused on the end result that I wasn't really enjoying or seeing the growth until I look back, because that's really the only way you could kind of measure gain. And I think a lot of us, because we're so aggressive and as entrepreneurs, we were destination, right? Like, what? But for me now, I just enjoy the process of learning and developing and getting better, because really that's a testament of what an entrepreneur is. It's almost like a self-development crash course. You know what I mean?
And then if you were looking forward 5 years, where do you see yourself going?
In 5 years from now, I just hope that my big primary focus, I have 3 small children, so 3 girls under 10, that at that stage that my connection with them is super strong, and that I'm not so absent trying to build my businesses. That's why I'm like super focused, and I'm trying to be focused now, right? Compartmentalize my focus, like my business time and then my family time. I'm not great at it, but I'm getting a lot better than I was 5 years ago. And so I hope from 5 years from now that my business, it doesn't require as much out of me. It shouldn't, if I do it right. And that my kids remember me with fondness, you know what I mean? And not absent.
So what's funny is like, it got so bad for me that I was just, even though I was physically present, I wasn't mentally present.
Yeah.
Like it got so bad for me that I physically had to write down business goals, but really more personal life goals, and like act like I was like with my kids, like being a dad was like my, like kind of quote unquote business, and like treat it almost like a business to be able to just let go of some of the business stuff and like give myself a breather over there and like really be not just physically present, but mentally present.
Dude, that's gold, man. I mean,
So like
yeah.
it was, and I don't know like why I had to do that, but once I did that and I was like, man, like I wouldn't be going to my business and just be focused on my kids and like not showing up present at my business. So like once I like made that mindset shift and just like, well, no, I'm gonna attack this the same way. It really has helped me out. I did that a couple of years ago, and I don't have as much of those ideas that flow back in when it's like, no, it's time for dinner time. It's like, and we're going to have fun as a family. So,
yeah, I mean, I've really been focused on that this last year. And one of the things that I do with that is like, I have my business goals, just same as you, but I have my kids' goals, right, for the month. And so I have a coach as well, because I'm a big believer in mentorship. In every level, I think you need another coach, truthfully, right? And so one of his challenges for me this month was like, I want to see 10 memory producing things that you're going to do with your kids for December only. And because December is going to be easy to do. You got first set 5, it's like it's too easy to do 10. And, I think because we're so entrepreneurial, it's like anything if it's on a task list, I'm knocking it out. Like I knocked out 3 of them in one weekend, right? But I think it's just super. I think what you said was just gold, man. I mean, once you think of it in the same way, because I think business and personal just kind of mesh together when you're on your own business, truthfully, I think it's all personal. Nothing is business. It's all personal.
Well, and like, yeah. And we always confuse the time for dollars, right? Like, I mean, look at extreme examples like Warren Buffett, guys. Warren Buffett does not work as hard as Jim Manning does and Michael does and Caleb does right now. This is life as far as hours put in. You know what I mean? Like he's an older guy. He's hanging out, but I promise you, he's making a crap ton more money than we are, right?
Yeah, but I think he had to at one time, right?
Well, yeah, no, and I'm sure he did at one point, right? But like it does not always equate that you put 50 hours or 100 hours into something that you're going to get that return back. You could put 10 hours into something and get a higher return if you do it smarter, if you do it a better way.
I agree.
All right, guys. So that's a wrap of another Doors to Deals episode. Once again, the full episode and show notes and information and all the other great resources that we have can be found on our website, doorstodeals.com/074. And a reminder, if you're looking to become financially free and grow your passive income, send us over an email, deals@3doors.com, deals@3doors.com, and we can kind of share with you what we have available, how we've been helping people generate over $130,000 a month in passive income, and we can help you out too. So that's a wrap for today, guys. Go out, live your purpose, and above all else, go after your dreams. Till next time. Thanks for tuning into this show. For more episodes and resources that will unlock Doors to Deals, check out our website, doorstodeals.com.